Deep Dive Podcast by the Boca Raton Tribune.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at something pretty interesting, a kind of political and fiscal drama connecting Boca Raton, Florida, way down south, with New York City.
Yeah, it's quite the geographical stretch.
Exactly. And the person really driving this is Boca Raton's mayor, Scott Singer. He's making some noise, publicly warning that if the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani, wins the mayoral race in New York, well, it'll trigger this huge escape from New York.
Right, and we should be clear. Looking at our sources, this isn't just, typical campaign talk. Boca Raton seems to be actively trying to become like the go-to place, the promised land, they're calling it, for companies and maybe even people looking to leave high-tax areas.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to really get into these claims by Mayor Singer. We want to look at the fiscal argument. Does it actually hold up?
And maybe more importantly, what's going on in Boca Raton. Are there local issues, maybe some controversies, that could be pushing the mayor to focus so intensely on a city, hundreds of miles away?
It's a real contrast, isn't it? This big external marketing push versus what might be happening locally internally. The sources definitely suggest a mayor who thinks a flood is coming.
He's not subtle about it. And maybe we should start with his core claim, just to set the stage. He's quoted saying, "People are already preparing to leave before a Mamdani election."
Wow, so even the threat is enough in his view.
That seems to be the idea,
Yeah.
that it's speeding up a trend he believes is already happening.
Okay, so let's unpack that trend. Singer thinks Mamdani's policies, they'll just pour gasoline on this fire, pushing businesses out of these, what he calls high-tax, high-crime jurisdictions.
Yeah, he repeats that phrase quite a bit in the materials we reviewed.
So what exactly is Mamdani proposing that has Singer sounding the alarm so loudly for New York's future?
Well, it really boils down to taxes. That's the big lever Singer sees, especially for, wealth that can move easily.
And the difference he's painting between New York and Boca is stark.
Oh, definitely. He points to Mamdani, who apparently at a debate kind of doubled down, saying something like, "It's about time we raise taxes."
Right, I saw that quote. And there's a specific number floating around too, isn't there?
There is. The proposal involves a potential marginal tax rate that's combining state and local taxes that could reach 17% for New York City residents.
17%.
Yeah. Now, obviously, that rate would hit the highest earners, the biggest companies primarily. And Singer basically sees that as a deal breaker.
Okay, 17% is, well, it's a big number, no question. But is that proposed tax hike on its own really enough to cause the kind of collapse Singer seems to be predicting?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Especially when you think about everything New York offers, the infrastructure, the culture, it's a global hub.
Right. And that's the part Singer seems to maybe downplay a bit. He focuses almost entirely on the tax burden. He argues the savings in Boca Raton are just too good to pass up.
Because Florida has no state income tax.
Exactly. Zero state income tax. And then Boca Raton itself, he highlights, has the lowest property tax rate of any full-service city in Florida.
So his argument is basically just math. You can ditch that 17% burden by moving south. Simple as that.
That's the core pitch. And he even lays out this timeline, almost like a movie plot, for what happens if Mamdani wins.
Oh, really? What's the prediction?
He says, 1 year out, you're going to see a substantial exodus of companies that are able to move. Mobile companies, basically.
Okay, year one, exodus. What about year two?
Year two gets darker. He talks about depressed values, more unemployment, higher crime, setting in within New York City.
So he's setting up Boca as the lifeboat, the immediate, shining alternative. And the sources suggest this isn't just talk. His marketing push is actually getting traction.
It seems so. Ever since Mamdani won the primary back in June, Boca Raton has really targeted the New York market. And they've apparently attracted interest, even relocations, from some pretty high-value sectors.
Like what kind of companies?
Things like financial services, fintech, which you'd expect, but also AI, even quantum computing. So for Singer, this is proof. Proof that businesses are mobile and they will chase lower taxes.
But this is where the narrative gets complicated, right? Because we need to bring in what the sources say about New York City's actual health right now. Is it really teetering on the brink, like Singer suggests?
Yeah, this is the crucial reality check. The sources we looked at paint a very different picture, actually. Despite all the political noise and tax debates, New York City is apparently going through a huge boom.
A boom. In what?
Real estate, commercial activity, One source described it as the biggest surge since before the 2008 financial crisis.
Wow, that's not the picture Singer is painting.
Not at all. In fact, one source bluntly stated that, looking at current economic indicators, NYC is doing much better than South Florida of late.
Okay, so if New York is actually booming, that changes the perspective on Boca's campaign, doesn't it? It starts to look less like rescue mission and maybe more like, well, expensive opportunism.
It certainly raises questions. And we know how much they spent.
Right, the sources mention a specific figure for Boca City Hall's marketing spend in New York.
Yep, around $80,000. That went towards things like billboards, ads during games, all aimed squarely at getting New York companies to think about moving.
$80,000. Advertising in a city hundreds of miles away, that's apparently doing quite well.
It makes you wonder what they feel they're achieving with that money. Are they genuinely trying to stem an exodus or just capitalizing on political uncertainty?
And predictably, spending that kind of money externally didn't sit well with everyone back home in Boca Raton.
Absolutely not. That $80,000 figure became a real flashpoint for local critics.
What was their argument?
Pretty straightforward.
Mm.
That money could have been used in Boca. For local infrastructure, fixing up neighborhoods, maybe even just communicating better with the people who actually live there.
There was a sense that the focus was misplaced.
Yeah, the criticism essentially boiled down to the mayor seems to care more about attracting New Yorkers than serving the needs of South Floridians.
And it probably helps Singer's case, or at least his comfort level with this, that he has personal ties to New York.
That's a relevant detail, yeah. He used to be an attorney in NYC.
Ah, okay.
And he mentioned that a lot of his own contacts there are very concerned about the election. And apparently some have even reached out to him personally about potentially moving to Boca.
So he's leveraging his own network and background to justify this external focus and spending.
It seems that way. It adds a layer of personal validation to his public campaign.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit because this feels like the real political angle our sources are pointing towards. Why focus so much energy and money on this external issue in New York?
Well, the sources suggest it's been politically useful. Yeah. Very useful, actually.
Useful how?
By keeping the spotlight firmly on Mamdani, on New York taxes, on this potential crisis. Singer has managed to, effectively, sidestep serious conversations about some pretty significant controversies happening right there in Boca Raton.
The classic distraction tactic. Create noise over there to drown out the noise here.
Exactly. It's a well-worn political strategy.
So what were these local fires he might have been trying to divert attention from? The sources mentioned two main ones, right? Let's start with the one about development and Costa's legacy project.
Right. That's the proposed redevelopment of the downtown City Hall campus. This was apparently envisioned as, a major achievement for his time as mayor.
But it didn't go smoothly.
Not at all. The whole project is basically stalled. It's in limbo right now.
Yeah.
And the reason is a local resident group, the Save Boca movement.
What did they do?
They managed to gather enough signatures to actually force a halt to it, legally blocking the project.
Wow, that's more than just disagreement. That's a direct public pushback against the mayor's big plan.
Precisely. The residents were raising alarms about potential overdevelopment, about the taxpayer costs involved, feeling like the mayor was pushing his vision forward without really listening to their concerns about growth and spending.
So a clash between the mayor's legacy ambitions and the residents' desire for maybe more controlled growth and fiscal caution.
That seems to be the heart of it. And then there was the second issue, which sounds like it touched more on local history and sentiment, the Memorial Park controversy.
Yeah, tell us about that one.
This one apparently got quite emotional for the community. It stemmed from what sources described as the mayor's shifting statements regarding the park's history.
Shifting how?
It seems his comment about its historical significance, particularly its connection to local veterans groups, changed or were seen as inconsistent. And this really angered people.
How did the critics frame his handling of it? What was the main objection?
They saw it as insensitive, basically. A callous disregard for the history of South Florida was one phrase used. Some critics felt it minimized the park's importance and, by extension, showed disrespect for veteran sacrifices.
So, in both cases, the City Hall project and Memorial Park, the underlying criticism seems to be about transparency, local focus, and maybe listening to residents.
That's the common thread, yes.
Right.
Which helps explain why that $80,000 spent marketing to New York drew such immediate criticism. It felt like proof of misplaced priorities to those already concerned about his local focus.
And this whole approach, the focus on New York, the strong rhetoric, It sounds like a real change from how he used to operate.
Apparently so. The sources describe his earlier persona as very different. He was seen as a detail-focused technocrat.
A technocrat.
Meaning,
Someone focused on the nuts and bolts of governance, may be seen as being a bit above the political fray, data-driven, precise.
But that changed.
According to the sources, yes. Sometime in early 2025, there was a noticeable shift towards more hyperbole, more provocative, almost shock-jock-style messaging, especially regarding York.
And that shift itself fueled the criticism.
It did, because critics saw it as evidence he was more interested in grabbing headlines and promoting himself, perhaps nationally, than in managing Boca Raton's specific needs. The takeaway from several sources was pretty blunt. Boca needs a mayor focused on Boca, not a salesman in New York.
Okay, so let's try to bring these two threads together. We've got Mayor Singer, who is, by some accounts, successfully using this narrative about high taxes and crime in New York to market Boca Raton. He's attracting businesses.
Right. That part seems to be working, at least to some extent. He's identified a real concerned tax burden and offered a clear alternative.
But at the same time, this intense focus outward seems to be causing problems inward. It's alienating parts of his own constituency who feel their local concerns are being pushed aside.
That's the core tension. Issues like overdevelopment worries, transparency questions, sensitivity to local history. They feel ignored while the mayor is busy campaigning, essentially, to New Yorkers.
So his governing philosophy seems clear. Low taxes, less regulation, welcome business that makes the city attractive. And he's proving that point, perhaps.
He is definitely proving the marketing value of that philosophy. He's selling the idea of Boca Raton very effectively. The challenge, though, seems to be managing the reality of Boca Raton for the people already living there.
It's like he's winning new arrivals, but potentially losing the trust of the people already there.
That's the risk, yeah. The political balancing act seems precarious.
Which brings us to a final thought, something for you, the listener, to maybe chew on after this deep dive. Mayor Singer claims New York City doesn't have a captive audience anymore. People will leave if taxes get too high.
Right. Mobility is key to his argument.
But think about this. If he's spending $80,000 trying to lure people from elsewhere while simultaneously facing strong local opposition strong enough to block his signature legacy project, does his focus on external politics maybe suggest that he views the residents of Boca Raton as the captive audience, as people who can't easily leave and whose concerns can perhaps be overlooked?
That's an interesting question to ponder. Is his focus outward a sign he takes the internal audience for granted?
Something for you to consider.